The wedding felt less like a union and more like a deal sealed between two powerful families. You were dressed in silk and diamonds, standing beside the most feared mafia hire in the city, Jungkook. His sharp gaze never softened, not even when he slipped the ring onto your trembling finger. There were no vows of love, no promises of a future together, only silence broken occasionally by the murmurs of guests whispering about the dangerous man who had just become your husband. From the very first night, Jungkook set the tone of your marriage. The left side of the bed is yours. Don't expect anything else from me. This marriage is for the families, nothing more. His voice was calm, even respectful, but detached like he was giving orders to a business partner. You swallowed your words, staring at the distance between you. I never asked for this either. For a moment, his jaw clenched as though something flickered beneath the icy facade. But then he simply turned his back, unbuttoning his cufflinks with steady hands, leaving you two curled up alone on the bed. Days turned into weeks, and though Jungkook never raised his voice or laid a hand on you in anger, he kept you at arm's length. He was always cold, distant, untouchable. At breakfast, the silence was suffocating. He would try to fill it with small attempts at conversation, but his replies were clipped and formal. You came home late last night. Another meeting. Business, no elaboration, no softness, and yet he was never cruel. One winter night, you fell asleep on the couch, too tired to wait for him to return. When you woke in the early hours, there was a heavy blanket draped over you. He wasn't in the room, but the faint scent of his cologne lingered. Another time, you skipped dinner out of frustration. The next morning, you found your favorite dish on the table untouched, waiting for you. Though Jungkook sat across with his usual cold expression, pretending it wasn't his doing. Did you ask the chef to make this? Eat before it gets cold. That was all. No confusion, no acknowledgement. Every gesture was subtle, hidden in shadows. You were cared for, yes, but never loved. The mention became a golden cage, each silent act of concern only reminding you how far he kept his heart from you. You were his wife in name, his responsibility in action, but never his partner in soul. And slowly you began to wonder how much longer you could endure being cherished only in secret. But never chosen openly. It had been months of enduring his silence, his clipped answers, his careful but suffocating distance. You had convinced yourself to accept it that at least he never hurt you, never shouted, never crossed the line. But one night, everything broke. Chungo came home later than usual, his suit disheveled, his tie loose, and a storm of stress in his eyes. Papers from his office scattered across the dining table as he poured himself a glass of whiskey, down it in one sharp gulp. You stood by the doorway watching him. Something inside you snapped the silence, the loneliness, the constant feeling of being unwanted. Did you ever realize how hard it is to live like this, to share a home with someone who doesn't even see me? He froze, glass in hand, his back rigid. I don't care if this marriage was arranged. I'm your wife, Jungkook, not your responsibility, not your business deal. For the first time since you married him, His calm shattered, his glass slammed against the counter, whiskey spilling across the wood as his voice thundered through the room. I never even wanted to marry you. The words tore through you like glass. His voice, always cold but level, now sharp and furious. It was the first time he had ever raised it at you, and it felt like a blade cutting where you were already bleeding. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. He turned away, just rising and falling, as though regretting his outburst already, but the damage was done. Your lips trembled, tears burning your eyes, but you refused to let them fall in front of him. Thank you for finally saying what you really think of me. And then you walked away. That night was the last time you shared a bed. The next days were filled with silence of a different kind, your silence. You stopped waiting for him to come home. You stopped trying to talk at breakfast. You moved your clothes into another room without a word. When he draped a blanket over the couch again, you folded it neatly and left it on the chair untouched. When your favorite meals appeared on the table, you pushed them aside. When gods shadowed you on his orders, you dismissed them coldly, Jungkook noticed. His sharp eyes lingered longer on your empty seat at dinner. His jaw tightened when he saw the untouched food. His hands curled into fists when he passed your closed bedroom door at night, pausing as though he wanted to knock but never did. For a man who prided himself on being untouchable, the distance hollowed him out more than he expected. But for you, it was the only way to survive because enduring his silence was one thing, enduring his rejection spoken out loud was something you couldn't bear anymore. It was late evening when you wandered into Jungkook's office. He wasn't home yet, and the heavy silence of the mansion pressed on you like a weight. His desk was neat, papers stacked with ruthless precision, except for one drawer that was locked. Something about it pulled at you. You searched quietly, finding a small key tucked beneath a book on the shelf. When the drawer clicked open, your heart dropped. Inside lay the marriage contract, gold, black, and white. Words detailing the terms of your life together. A signature from you, a signature from him, stamped with your family seals. Proof that your marriage wasn't born of choice but of obligation. But beneath the contract, you found something that didn't belong, a photo, your photo from the wedding day, one that wasn't stacked for the cameras. It was a candid shot of you looking down, unaware. You stared at it, breath caught in your throat. Why would he keep this? Your voice was barely above a whisper. As you stared at the photo in your hand, it wasn't one of those perfect wedding pictures meant for the public eye. It was raw, unposed. You were not even looking at the camera, your gaze fixed downward as if lost in thought. He had kept that moment hidden away beneath contracts and signatures that bound you both like chains. You shoved the photograph back into the drawer, locking it hastily as footsteps echoed in the hall. By the time Jungkook appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie after a long night, you were already sitting stiffly on the couch, pretending to read. He glanced at you, eyes narrowing slightly, but said nothing. As usual, the days that followed felt heavier than before. His words from your last argument, I never even wanted to marry you, still carved into you like an open wound. The photo had confused you, a piece of proof that maybe he saw you as more than a responsibility, but if he truly did, why had he used words sharp enough to shatter you? So you chose silence. At dinner the next night, the chef laid out a meal Jungkook had clearly ordered for you. Your favorite, the rich aroma filled the room, but you couldn't taste anything through the bitterness lingering in your chest. You didn't touch your food again. His voice was even, but you noticed the faint tension beneath it. Normally, he would have tried to ease the silence, maybe asked about his business, maybe smiled even if he didn't return it, not anymore. You set your fork down carefully, pushed the plate away, and stood. I'm not hungry. And then you walked out, leaving him seated alone in the long, cold dining hall. His gaze followed you until you disappeared, his fingers curling tightly around his glass, but he didn't call you back. That night, you didn't return to your shared room. Instead, you carried your pillow and blanket down the hallway into one of the unused guest bedrooms. The sheets smelled foreign, the mattress was stiff, but it was yours. More importantly, it wasn't his. When Jungkook entered your room later, he found your side of the bed perfectly untouched. His eyes lingered on the pillow you had left behind. The faint dent from your head still there. For the first time, he hesitated, standing by the bed as if unsure whether to leave or search for you. In the end, he walked out, the sound of his footsteps sharp against the silence, the pattern repeated day after day. You no longer waited for him at night. The soft light under your door was always extinguished by the time he came home. When he left, his quiet gestures, a blanket over the couch, your favorite tea steeped and waiting, you returned them untouched. Once, you folded the blanket neatly and placed it on the chair outside his room. The message was clear. You no longer wanted his subtle hidden kindness. One morning, he tried again. The guards said you dismissed them last night. That isn't safe. You didn't look up from your teacup. It's not your concern anymore. For a moment, his eyes flashed something between anger and hurt, but he only pressed his lips together. Slipping his cufflinks into place with mechanical calm, he said nothing as he left, the echo of the door shutting behind him louder than words ever could be. But your silence didn't leave him untouched. Chunguk had lived his life in control of everything, his empire, his men, his enemies. Yet for the first time he couldn't control you. He noticed the emptiness beside him in bed, the untouched meals, the locked doors you never opened when he paused outside your room at night. And for the first time, the silence that once gave him peace now suffocated him because this time it wasn't his choice. This time it was yours. Jungkook had always lived in silence, he thrived on it. Silence gave him control, made him untouchable. He began noticing things he had ignored before. The way you laughed lightly with the maids when you thought he wasn't around. The way his right hand man, Teong, bowed politely to you and earned a small smile in return, something Jungkook hadn't seen from you in weeks. The way your voice, once always reaching for his, no longer sought him out of all. One evening, he returned from a meeting to find you in the garden, a shawl wrapped around your shoulders. Teung was standing a few steps away. Speaking with you softly, you actually smiled. It was the first time in weeks Jungkook had seen your lips curved like that. And it wasn't for him. His jaw tightened and he walked towards you, his footsteps heavy enough to make Taeyong glance up immediately. Jungkook's stare was sharp, cutting, and without saying a word, his subordinate excused himself. He sighed, wrapping the shawl tighter. You didn't have to send him away. We were only talking. You don't need to talk to other men. His tone was calm, but the possessiveness in it was undeniable. You raised your eyes to him, wounded and furious all at once. And who else am I supposed to talk to? Jungkook, you? For a moment, his mask cracked, his lips parted, his gaze faltered, but he said nothing. He always said nothing. So you turned and walked away, leaving him alone among the roses, fists clenched at his sides. That night he couldn't sleep. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty space beside him. The pillow was cold, untouched. He rose and walked to your door, his knuckles hovering inches from the wood, but he didn't knock. Instead, he leaned his forehead against the door for a moment, eyes shut before retreating down the hall. The next day, he tried something different. At breakfast, your favorite dishes were on the table again. You ignored them, reaching for plain bread instead. His patience snapped. Why do you keep rejecting everything I do for you? Your laugh was bitter, humorless. Everything you do, Jungkook, you don't even see me. You feed me, clothe me, guard me like I'm some possession. But not once have you made me feel like your wife. His gaze darkened, something dangerous, flickering in it, not aimed at you, but at himself. He opened his mouth, closed it, then finally muttered low and rough. I don't know how. It was the most vulnerable confession you had ever heard from him, but you were too hurt, too tired to let it break your walls. You stood from the table, pushing your chair back without a word, leaving him to wrestle with the silence once again. This time, though, it wasn't silence of his choosing. It was silence that was slowly tearing him apart. The mansion was unusually quiet that night. No footsteps echoing down the hall, no soft hum of Jungkook's voice on a phone call. Something about the silence went wrong. You had been staying in the guest room for over a week now, but tonight a strange unease pulled you out of bed. You wrapped your robe around yourself and followed the faint sound of clinking glass from Jungkook's study. When you pushed the door open, the side stole the air from your lungs. Jungkook sat slumped at his desk, the usually immaculate surface lighted with empty whiskey glasses and an open bottle. His knuckles were bloody, one of the glasses shattered on the floor at his feet. His tie was gone, shirt half unbuttoned, hair falling messily into his face. But it wasn't just the mess, it was the blade. He was holding a small silver knife, the kind he usually kept in his drawer, his thumb running along its edge as if testing it. His eyes were glassy, distant. Jungkook, your voice cracked, but it snapped him out of his haze. He looked up at you like he had been caught doing something shameful. His pupils dilated from drink and pain. I can't do this anymore. What are you saying? Put that down. He let out a bitter laugh, but it broke halfway through, turning into something like a sob. I destroyed everything. I pushed you away, made you hate me, turned you into a ghost in your own home. And now I can't even breathe without you, Wine. The knife slipped slightly in his hand, and you lunged forward on instinct, knocking it away. It clattered across the desk. Without thinking, you raised your hand and slapped him hard across the face. Are you out of your mind? He blinked at you, stunned, your eyes burned with tears, but your voice shook with fury. You don't get to do this. You don't get to throw your life away because you are too scared to face me. You're John Jungkook. You have survived everything, and now you're going to sit here and he words tired as his shoulders began to shake. He lowered his head into his hands, and to your shock, he started to cry, not a single tear but silence. Wrecking sobs that shook his entire frame. I'm sorry. I am so sorry, Vine, for everything, for yelling at you, for making you feel unwanted. I didn't know how to love you without hurting you. I thought keeping you away would protect you. I was wrong. You stared at him, this man you had only ever seen as cold, untouchable, dangerous. Now he was broken, undone, crying into his hands like a boy who had lost everything. Something inside you cracked too. You moved closer, kneeling beside him. Slowly, you wrapped your arms around his trembling shoulders. He stiffened at first, then collapsed against you, his forehead pressing to your collarbone as his tears dampened your robe. It's okay, it's over now, I'm here. You stroked his hair gently, your other hand running along his back. He clutched at you as though you were the only thing keeping him from falling apart completely. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Your voice was soft, but it carried the weight of everything you had been through. I forgive you, Jungkook, but you don't ever scare me like that again. You don't get to give up on yourself, not while I'm here. He pulled back just enough to look at you, eyes red and swollen. I'll do better. I swear, just don't leave me. You cupped his face, wiping away a tear with your thumb. Then show me. Not with gifts, not with cards or food. Show me with you. He nodded weakly, pressing his forehead to yours, his braids raked but steady. In that moment, the coldest man you had ever known was nothing but warm, desperate human. And for the first time since your wedding day, you felt like maybe, just maybe, there was a real husband under all that ice.